Hello, salutations and greetings. It isn't me, Bolmaro, the guy who's considered a traitor in Mexico, Canada, America, and Hungary, and just to be sure on site. You guys ever heard of roguelikes? If you know me, you know that I play a lot of roguelikes. You know what? Let's ask someone right now, actually. Hey Luke, do I play a lot of roguelikes?
Alexa, does he play a lot of roguelikes?
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
No. See? 50 hours on Slay the Spire, 320 on The Binding of Isaac, 20 on Dead Cells, 200 on Nuclear Throne, then another 250 on Nuclear Throne Ultra, 100 on Enter the Gungeon. You get the picture. I'm always on the hunt for a good roguelike I can sink hours of my ever-fleeing and finite life, which is one day bound to end into. But just in case you don't know what roguelike is, Rogue was a game released in 1980. I don't know the exact release date, I'm just paraphrasing from a Wikipedia page here. It was developed by a Mr. Michael Toy and Glenn Wichman, with later contributions by a Ken Arnold, direct quote. And probably isn't the first, but was definitely the most notable game at the time, this is the early 80s we're talking about here, to feature RNG, also known as the shit that gets you killed in Apex Legends, where the motherfucker next to you, someone gets a specced out Prowler, and all you had was a fucking P20, also known as random number generation. What is random number generation? Well, it's that right there on screen, but as you or me would say, it's randomness. That is the easiest, most condensed way I can put it. You could make a 15-minute video just talking about the ins and outs of RNG, so let's not do that and let's move on. Rogue left an impact on the world. So much of an impact, we named the fucking genre after it. Yeah, get it? Roguelike. Can you imagine if we did that with other games? Would we call any 3D game a Battlezone-like? Would we call 2D platformers Donkey Kong-likes? Would we call animated movies humorous phases of funny faces-likes? In hindsight, it's really dumb, but let's just ignore the dumb naming conventions. It's debatable when roguelikes gain some serious attraction again, since obviously it's more than just RNG that makes a roguelike, but I'd like to say The Binding of Isaac, Flash version, is when the roguelike genre hit the mainstream again, and thus the holy quadrology, something like that, of roguelikes was conceived. Nuclear Throne, Dead Cells, Enter the Gungeon, and the King of Kings, The Binding of Isaac. Obviously, these aren't the only good, hell, even great roguelikes, but these are definitely the most recognized. And it's nice to see some other games are starting to get recognized and being lumped into that once quadrology. Slay the Spire, Hades, Risk of Rain, Vampire Survivors, and a few others. As for what a roguelike actually is, everyone makes it sound like it's this deep, big, convoluted thing, where it's literally just games with randomly generated elements, be it terrain or room layouts, with randomized gear and upgrades with permadeath. That's it. That's all it is. Anyway, I think I've chatted for long enough. Let's get to the topic of the video. I've scavenged far and wide for 5 roguelikes I think deserve your time, starting with a cautious recommendation to a heavy recommendation. So shut the fuck up, grab some popcorn or other snack to your liking, and let's review 5 roguelikes I think deserve your time of day. Or night, I'm pro Vampire too. Colt Canyon is an indie roguelike made by Retrific. It's an over-the-top cowboy shooter with an actual really unique gimmick. It's fighting. The game clearly takes influence from Nuclear Throne, its general gameplay, its simplicity, twin-stick shooter, 2-player local co-op, and looping. But it does have a few aces up its sleeve. Stealth. In Colt Canyon, you gotta be smart. It's not like most roguelikes, where you either have unlimited ammo, or ammo is so plentiful it makes you question why there's even an ammo count in the first place. It may seem like you have lots of ammo, but it quickly gets drained, and most enemies do not drop ammo. But you're not playing pacifist. You can melee, which gets a huge bonus when done in stealth. On paper, an idea I really like. An arcadey roguelike twin-stick shooter, but you don't have to kill anyone. You can actively avoid fights, and getting caught has some serious consequences, since even if you enter the next level, enemies will still follow you. Once one enemy gets alerted, everyone joins the party. It's a really cool idea. So why is it a cautious recommendation? Well, before I start bitching, we should probably talk about the positives. Colt Canyon, like I just said, plays like Nuclear Throne. You're dropped into a randomly generated area with a random amount of enemies. You die fast, enemies die fast. But unlike Nuclear Throne, which is kill everything, in Colt Colt Canyon, it's literally just as simple as getting from A to B, however you want. That's brilliant. It's not the first roguelike to give you the option to avoid enemies, far from it, but in almost every roguelike, fighting enemies gets you something or gets you closer to something, and is basically always required. And I know in something like Dead Cells, you don't necessarily have to fight enemies, but the game is clearly made around killing enemies, giving you extra rewards based on your streaks, and some enemies having those weird power-up scroll things, whatever you call them. In this, you can actually sneak around enemies, or pick them off with some melee hits. You can roll to roll, but also act as an impromptu dash to close distance on enemies before they see you. You can use foliage and rocks to hide. It's done really well. It's a good stealth game. Gunplay is also very good. Guns shake the screen and kill fast, and it's not just stuff like revolvers. There's shotguns, repeaters, bows and arrows, TNT cannons, melee weapons, which can be thrown to deal huge damage during stealth. More stuff like that. Dynamite, which can be thrown like a grenade. There's actually options with strengths and weaknesses that you'd expect. Shotguns turn everything into mincemeat, but their range is limited. Bows usually only have one shot, but they're silent. Dynamite obliterates everything near it, but you have to make sure you throw it right to get the maximum value, unless you want to whiff dynamite, because you can only carry 3 at once, and it's not that common. Enemies aren't exactly the smartest, but they have the numbers and damage to make up for it, and they do have variation. You have the common shooters and rushers, but you also have people who sit in the back and volley you, enemies who whip you, enemies with fast close range slugs. And the game does actually give an incentive to explore. Crates spawn on the outskirts of maps that can contain ammo, weapons, health, armor, and other little goodies, and a few unfortunate folk have been captured by the enemies, and are often guarded by a small group of said enemies, who can be free for bonuses, not upgrades, bonuses. They help, but you don't necessarily have to free these prisoners. Stuff like a little bit more health, extra stopping power with bullets, higher bullet cap. There's an incentive, but not a necessity. The music, the sound design, and the aesthetic are top-notch too. I like the cowboy aesthetic, and I think the music does a good job of capturing that era. Now, so far, you might be wondering, why is this game a cautious recommendation? So far, I've sucked this game's dick more than a Brazilian prostitute. So what gives? Well, let's start with the small things and move our way up. The character selection leaves something to be desired. Let's look at something like Nuclear Throne. Fish gets extra ammo and can roll. That's literally like one extra line of code, I think, and a dash. But that opens up so many different opportunities and gameplay styles. Just because a character's simple doesn't mean that they're bad. 2/3 of this cast are fine. Colt is a reliable gunslinger, Stab is the generic slow but tanky guy, but then you already run into a problem. That problem being Fox and Eagle are basically the same character. Only difference being, Fox is good with guns and only has 2 HP, whereas Eagle has 4 HP and is good with arrows, getting extra damage with them. Sure, their stats are slightly different, but they both do the same thing and end out feeling the same. Originality isn't the only fault characters have. Taco's strength is that he has the best name. He's an explosive expert, which on paper sounds like it could be alright, until you realize that explosive expert means that some of his loadouts let him start with dynamite. As for what a loadout is, all characters can choose from a small variety of predetermined weapons. Your default weapon is the loadout you'll start with, and then you unlock loadouts as you play the game, getting to different areas, doing different things. Not a bad feature, I just didn't know where else to mention it. Back to Taco. Besides some of his loadouts letting him start with dynamite, not even all of them, keep in mind, what else do you think he has? Dynamite refills every few dozen kills or levels? Nope. How about more damaging dynamite, or dynamite that leaves a pool of fire, or something to do with the dynamite itself? Nope. He has an outstanding, a huge, another word meaning big, 66% damage resistant against explosive. That's it. Bad stats, shit weapons. He's probably the worst character in this game, unless there's some hidden technique I'm not seeing, which I highly doubt. Rose also suffers from the problem of not being very fun. In all honesty, she's alright. Good agility, good health, but bad with guns. Her gimmick is that she's really good with melees and throwables. Problem being, melee weapons aren't very common and break after a few uses. So does she have a special melee weapon with an infinite durability? Or extra melee spawns? Or some kind of unarmed attack? Given that I'm bitching about it, no she doesn't. And look at Chains. Does he get extra ammo or health or... Okay, I'll stop the joke. He gets jack shit. In fact, he's literally just Colt, you know, the starting character, with slightly worse health, better agility, the same strength, and worse weapon skill, with a slightly better starting weapon. The only black character is a carbon copy of the starting character. And as for the 2 loop characters, well, I didn't even bother unlocking them. I'll explain why in a second, but given what the wiki says, they're not even that much to talk about. Mom just sounds like a shitter fox with less agility and less HP. Take into account, agility is the one thing Fox has going for her, and One Eye just sounds like Stab, but he's a long-term investment rather than an actual character. Jim and Flynn is a guy and a dog. I think he's pretty cool. Another complaint is stealth gets very fucking hard past the first area. The first area is generous, lots of cover, and long stretches of grass to hide in, so you'd expect the second area to have less cover and smaller but more frequent shrubs or something to hide in, right? Nope. Past area 2, cover doesn't exist and stealth becomes nearly impossible. Hello, alright. So, this is George from the future. Turns out, the red damaging bushes in the second area, I don't know if it's actually gonna show up in the background gameplay, but I'm guessing it will. Turns out, you can actually hide in them. Problem being, they damage you, as you can see that they're glowing red and shit. The only way to negate that is by using one upgrade called Leather Suit, which I never saw once while recording, and fun fact, the description for Leather Suit doesn't even say it does that. It says status effects. How the fuck is a bush a fucking status effect? Like, what the fuck? So, I guess that whole thing about there being smaller shrubs to hide in is technically in the game. It's just there's so many fucking requirements for it to even be, like, semi-useful. It's basically a moot point. Whole idea, a perk that lets you use extra cover. In execution, it's shit. But I thought I might as well, like, correct myself. Even though I still think I'm basically right, but I should at least point out, like, no, you can hide. It's just not, like, good. What's the fucking point of your game being marketed as a roguelike that encourages stealth and a game where you'd always have to fight people, only to have the second area make stealth nearly impossible? So remember that thing I said about how upgrades kidnapped hostages give you aren't really required? Scratch that. If you want to get through area 2 and 3 efficiently, having a decent amount of ammo and or health, you gotta take the camouflage upgrade, which is really broken by the way. Enemies just can't see you anymore or just assume you're a schizophrenic hallucination and won't alert enemies nearby. You could be actively shooing at somebody and everybody around them will even bat an eye. It's just an average Tuesday form, I guess, their friend getting killed right in front of them. It makes the whole point of stealth pointless in a stealth game. It's like if FNAF realized it wasn't scary on night 3, so it just turned into Slime Rancher or something. But the biggest issue, the reason this game pissed me off to the point I genuinely didn't want to play anymore, bullet sponges. Alright, let me just start off this part by saying this is a very fucking biased opinion. I'm very aware of that. I know I'm probably the only motherfucker who hates this shit that much. I hate bullet sponges, or as I've coined them, sponges, hurt suckers, absorbers, or horrible game design. I think bullet sponges only work if the enemy isn't supposed to be fought in the first place, think Mr. X or Nemesis from Resident Evil, or if the enemy is unbeatable. It's a reason why Cyberpunk 2077 just isn't a game I can enjoy. Having enemies that have just been vaccinated against fucking death itself apparently, and are so durable you might as well turn on a movie while you shoot them, it can take that long to kill them sometimes, isn't something I find very fun. Watching an enemy's health bar slowly chip down little by little with every shot isn't only annoying, it's a complete pace breaker. Look at Nuclear Throne. 90% of the enemies die in just 1 to 3 hits from about anything. Even the default shotgun, a weapon you find in the first area, by the by, can reliably 2 to 3 shot most things, assuming you get close enough. It uses bullet sponges very sparingly, and even those bullet sponges die in a few seconds. It's an incentive to try newer, more powerful weapons and not get complacent with the ones you have, but you don't have to. Look at the rad dogs in the palace from Nuclear Throne, for instance. Sure, 160 HP is a lot, but a little over 1.5 seconds of concentrated minigun fire, or 0.8 if it's the double minigun, I guess, 8 crossbow bolts, a few good shots from a double barrel shotgun, and a good handful of other weapons can still kill them in a few seconds. This is also balanced by them being A, an endgame enemy, the palace is the final area after all, and B, their lack of range. All they do is pouch you, which sure is basically a guaranteed kill, but it has such a large window to dodge and it's telegraphed. They're slow and big, and they feel like a fair enemy. And they are condensed rad, which I'm guessing is supposed to be a thick, durable substance if it can kill a person. In what fucking universe can a grizzly bear shrug off several point-blank shotgun blasts? Now, in all fairness, this apparent immunity to death doesn't apply to every enemy in the game. Only, I don't know, 20% of them. In all honesty, most enemies die pretty quick. A good bullet or two from any range can put them down relatively fast. But then there are the special enemies that not only take a lot of bullets, but remember how I said you can melee enemies to deliver a quick one-shot? Yeah, well, fuck you. Basically, every special enemy won't die to a stealth stab. Animals, big boys, whip people, you name it. So why not just run past them? Well, you can definitely do that in the first area, but the second you hit the second area, remember how I said stealth becomes nearly impossible, so you can't reliably sneak past or one-shot enemies. Do I really have to say how that completely ruins the point of this game? This also means that Big Knife, another upgrade, is also almost required, meaning camouflage and Big Knife is, without question, the best combo in this game, making stealth actually have a function again, and enemies get more durable between areas, meaning post area 2, most enemies won't even die to a single knife swing in stealth. I know it sounds like I'm just shitting all over this game because it's hard, and hell, maybe I am, but my pride is making me gaslight myself into thinking otherwise. But from my experience, having so many enemies be so durable is a complete pace breaker. It turns these from frantic, quick gunfights to just shooting at moving brick walls half the time, I swear. With a manual reload system, you'll expect enemies to die even faster than in Throne, but I guess not. I remember the reason I stopped playing this game initially back in 2021 because, spoiler alert, I actually owned all of these games. I didn't get down for the review or anything. I remember I was playing as Eagle and shot a fucking buffalo / bison, I don't know what it is, 10 fucking times with a crossbow. 10 times. Keep in note that she has extra arrow damage and it still did not die. Then it killed me while I still have 3 hearts left. Call it a skill issue. Say I'm bad. I do not fucking care. A bison should die after I hit it with 4 arrows tops, let alone fucking 10. That number should not go into the double digits. Despite all this, Colt Canyon can still be some fun. If the enemy health was changed a bit and stealth was made a bit more viable, I would definitely be singing a different tune right now. But the HP is that bad. It pains me to say it, since this game clearly had a lot of effort put into it, since between this and Retrific's last game, there was a 3-year gap. Colt Canyon was made in 2020, and the game before that, I can't remember the name of it, was 2017. But the HP just ruined the pace and the fun. It makes the whole point of this game being that you can sneak around pointless. I'd still recommend it, but only if it was on sale or you really like games with bullshit difficulty inflation. But otherwise, it's a cautious recommendation. But I think I've been bitching about this for long enough. Let's go from cowboys to veggies with no smart or inventive transition. Did your mom ever tell you to finish your vegetables in response you wanted to blast them with a shotgun? The vegetables, not your mother, I mean. If you're American, definitely, since that's your only response to everything. If you're from anywhere else in the world, probably not, but if you have had that thought, then The Walking Vegetables is a game for you. The Walking Vegetables is... well, I think the game's Steam description can describe the basic premise far better than I ever could. This is the actual fucking Steam description, by the way. So, don't bash me for this being cringy. It's the 1980s, and an evil alien race has invaded Earth, turning all vegetables into crueling, brewing, mauling abominations. You are about to join Department Radical, the grooviest police force on Earth. Are you a rad enough dude ordained to smite these ravenous creatures? Yeah, that's the fucking Steam description. Besides that, the game was developed by Still Running, which is actually a AAA studio. Nah, of course not. It's 6 idiots who've only got 2 games under their belt. This and More Than the 7 Acolytes, which looks like a much more serious game that's apparently a Souls-like, which I might review at some point. Who knows? Getting back on track, The Walking Vegetables, which henceforth shall be shortened to The Walking Veggies, is a game I would describe as dumb fun. This game knows it's stupid and doesn't try to be anything else but some dumb fun. This applies to, well, just about everything, really. The enemies look like they just walked out of a bad B-movie. The aliens look like the demented child of Mike Wazowski and a fucking chickpea. The NPCs are all really well designed and actively insult you at any chance given. But style also requires substance. So how's that? Alright, I was gonna have this joke where I talk about the game but then talk about some of the faults before I recommend the appropriately named Radical Edition, but I'm not even gonna bother. I'm just gonna say it now. If you get this game, I would heavily recommend the Radical Edition. You can get it on console, and in my opinion, it is without a doubt the better version of this game. Both play near identically. You start a run in what I'm guessing is Department Radical and play as Walter White before bracing the veggie army that lays in front of you. Along the way, you lure up houses, destroy stuff to get extra ammo, HP, and occasionally weapons. You get keys which can open locks to chests and houses. You get money for killing enemies, which can be used at shops for a wide selection of goodies. And you get a special key from one of Mike Wazowski's children after you find him and fight him, which allows you to fight the boss. When it comes to fighting enemies, you have options. Obviously, you have your gun, which is used to shoot things. Who would have thought that? But you have a melee attack, which is good for good old school bashing or veggie bashing, I guess, since, yeah, you don't really fight humans in this, do you? But can also be used to deflect projectiles. You have an active item, which acts as area denial, which by default is coffee, by the way. And back to the topic of weapons, you have a lot of them, and you can carry up to 8 at once, which at first I thought was way too much, but then you realize since ammo isn't given to you in large amounts, and you only have 4 ammo categories, you have to keep switching between weapons, making all fights quick and frantic. There are a few weapons that you don't have to worry about ammo, but they usually have a setback, like low damage for the pistol or the chili gun having a recharge mechanic. Fights take on a horde mentality, as in enemies die quickly, even the big ones, but you're constantly surrounded by enemies. Enemies also have a lot of variety. Peas, or grapes, I can't really tell, that come in huge numbers and are fast, but die in one hit to anything short of breathing on them. Broccoli, that just acts as the general enemy of the game. Lemons, that spit out pools of acid. Orange, that burst into wedges when they die. Instead of passive items spawning throughout a run, you can bring up to 4 into one run at once. Some are pretty simple, like making keys not needed, but then there are some that let you revive yourself once, let you dual wield, and a wide selection of other things that are probably game breaking but are fun. That's the only real way I can describe this game. Sure, it doesn't have nearly as much depth as something like Isaac or Gungeon, or a story like Hades. It's just a stupid roguelike you can sink hours into and have some dumb laughs along the way. Plus, it's got a lot of charm going for it. Guns work on the Doom logic, where as long as you have the ammo, you can shoot as much as you like. Reloading doesn't exist in this universe, I guess. Explosions don't affect you at all, are probably big enough to level a city block, shake the screen, and launch enemies into the screen. The music is a bop, especially the pause music. I could listen to that shit for ages. Your character has voice acting on par with OG Resident Evil levels. When you're at 1 HP, your sprite changes and the music speeds up to really make fighting at low HP more intense. The sprite work isn't super detailed, but has a lot of character. It's a fun roguelike with some banging music and amazing charm. What more can I say? Oh yeah, I know, still running. If you're listening to this, firstly, hey, I hope your day was good. Secondly, if you gave me a free copy of Morbid, The 7 Acolytes, I really hope that's the word. I hope I'm not being some fucking clown. I would drop everything I'm doing. I have 2 other reviews, like, written. Well, not written, but that are getting written. I would drop both of those just to review the game. And thirdly, please, for the love of fucking God, change the PC version to the Radical Edition. Please. The Radical Edition of this game is the console edition. The Xbox, the PS4/5, and the Switch version, and in my opinion, they are the superior race to the smelly standard version. The progression has changed. In the normal edition, the progression is weird. You have a main area connected to several rooms, and you can only enter 2 at once. When you clear one room, another one gets unlocked. In the Radical Edition, it's far more streamlined. You just clear a map room by room, but there are altering paths, so it's not just one linear path. It also has a lot of small quality of life changes, like a way better minimap, fast travel, explosive barrels dotted around the map, a way to scrap bad weapons for money, and maybe more weapons. I can't confirm that last part, but there were some weapons I saw that I didn't see elsewhere. Plus a few small things I probably didn't notice. It also irons out a few flaws, like actually having a designated weapon swap button instead of awkwardly having to use the scroll wheel, and a tutorial. The Radical Edition is definitely radical and is without a doubt the superior way to play the game, and is only console exclusive for some reason. I'll let you be the judge on why. I'm not saying the Radical Edition, or the normal edition by extension, is perfect. The game doesn't pause when you alt-tab or enter quick menu. You're stuck looking like Walter White's girly pop brother the whole game. It's not perfect, but the game is definitely some stupid fun, and I'd recommend it, especially for a small price of £6, or whatever that is in dollars. I don't speak obesity rates. But I think I've spoken long enough about veggies, and it's time to talk about... Wait, what the fuck? It's another cowboy game. Wait, it's another shooty cowboy game? Well, yes, but actually... Yes. The year is 1888 in Wyoming, Purgatory. You're playing as William Mason, or the remnant or ghost of William Mason. It's kind of left to interpretation what he is exactly. You're also a plane walker, whatever that is. But that is probably why he has, without a doubt, the coolest cowboy design I've ever seen, period. Holy shit. Mason's design is so cool, and that extends to everything about this game, actually, come to think of it. Spoiler alert, this game is definitely prettiest in the video. I love the gritty cel-shaded style. It's why, despite the fact I've never played Borderlands, that's still on my to-play list, it will always have my favorite art style of all time, and games with a similar vibe like Sunset Overdrive, even if that's not really cel-shaded, and Roller Dome have a lot of lasting power to me. Tangent aside, this game really makes you feel like a cowboy. It's a cover shooter, twin stick of course, that's the leading brand, and by god the game intends to make that very clear. It may seem like you have a lot of HP, but when enemies hit you for 75 or more, you realize cover is your best friend. You can also dash to dodge bullets if you're out in the open, or to quickly get from one piece of cover to another, and it plays slow, which I like. You're armed with very old-fashioned weapons like muskets, busted revolvers, single-shot shotguns. It makes sense why you're not zipping around everywhere. You gotta wait for your weapons to reload, and Mason's general movement speed is very low. Despite this, the gunfights do still feel frantic, probably because of how well the enemies are blended. You have the shooty enemies who shoot at you, you have the rusher enemies and enemies with shotguns to deal heavy close range damage, and you have the misc enemies. Some throw bear traps, or cleavers, or... Wait, did I put bear traps? I fucking put bear traps twice. George, you fucking idiot. Alright, we're just gonna ignore the fact that I put bear traps twice. I guess thrower enemies would have made more sense, since if they're not shooting or running at you, they're throwing shit, but I don't care, it's too late to change that. Enemies die fast, and you can dodge their attacks with some proper timing, and just in case the game wasn't kick-ass enough already, when you have a perfect dodge, you get a brief slowdown and a cool camera angle. That, it doesn't really do much. I mean, time slowdown, but like, it doesn't, yeah, you don't slow down time afterwards, you just get a cool camera angle, so I guess you just get vanity points for perfect dodging, which I don't know what that counts for. And while we're on the subject of style, holy shit, this game has a lot of it. Mason, voiced by Ron Perlman, by the way, I didn't know who he was either, I wouldn't blame you for looking him up, does an amazing grizzled cowboy voice, and Mason's story isn't clearly laid out. You get fragments of it from outlaws, we'll talk about those in a minute, from these weird runes, and you look at like these glyphs and shit, I don't know how to explain it, it's just laid out really well, and even those don't tell you that much. The only other hints you get of Mason's story are occasionally from Mason himself, and the priest who acts as a main antagonist. I also love how the closer you get to the end of the game, the more defined and intense the music gets, starting off as some fake guitarist, or whatever the technical term is, I'm not a musical nerd, but by the end it's a full-blown instrumental. I like how the deeper you go into the game, the more human the enemies become. I like the open-endedness of the story. This game, similar to The Walking Veggies, has a lot of style going for it. Style can only get a game so far though, and I should probably stop talking about the aesthetic and get back to the gameplay. And I'm not even going to sugarcoat it, I think this game might take the phrase quality over quantity a bit too seriously. The game plays really well. Besides what I just mentioned, the game plays like a room clearer. You know, clear out a floor room by room. Every room is normally very dark, and you can activate lanterns which not only stun enemies that are close, but actually gives you the privilege of eyesight again. So almost every room turns into this mad dash to cover distance. Enemies will attack you for the first few seconds to make this more balanced, and vital stuff like weapons, cover, enemies, lanterns, as well as you. Really nice detail to explain why Mason glows, by the way. Most games your character just naturally excretes light, I guess, but since Mason's head is on fire, you get the point. Stuff like that has a slight shimmer to it. The game also gives you access to 2 active items of varying quality, from really useful stuff like axes, which can hit enemies over cover, dynamite, and complete garbage like proxy mines and lanterns. Also, did they have proxy mines in 1888? Like, I don't know. While clearing Purgatory, you can meet some of the less skilly denizens. Lost souls who, after a brief interaction, can be free for some goodies. Problem being, this freeing comes at with a price. After saving a lost soul, be burdened, meaning you take extra damage, but this burden can be lifted after killing a certain amount of enemies. You also have the trader who gives you stuff for iron, the currency of this game. That's the trader. And finally, there are the outlaws who actually are a killy denizen. Don't just take everything people say as a fact, you gullible little silly silly guy. Outlaws, after a brief interaction, will engage in a good old western shoot. They also use the power of cover against you. Your only ally in this desolate hellscape is also now an enemy. Poetic. The outlaw fights were fun, and they even had some variation. Some outlaws use shotguns, some fan you with revolvers, and some use rifles. The outlaw fights feel like they could be turned into a game of their own. Also, really like how their design motif is similar to Mason with the whole flaming skull thing. Really nice touch. You can take all pass for extra goodies, you can upgrade your HP, weapon damage, and gadget cooldowns at special stations, and throughout the game you collect sin, or as a normal person would call it, cells from dead cells. This sin can be used to purchase items which are available in later runs, and you have a health flask that can be refilled. And okay, now it started as a joke, but this game took a lot of elements from dead cells. Not saying that's a bad thing, the game still has a clear identity of its own. However, it didn't take one of the biggest elements into account: replayability. I genuinely can't stretch this part of the review out that long. What do you want me to say? Do you want me to describe every level? The church looks churchy, the farmlands look farmy. Like, what do you want me to say? This game is over in 2 runs. Sure, I died a few times, but even then, by the end of this, I have like, 14 hours? Sure, there's the martial difficulty, which might add an extra hour or 2, but besides that, there's nothing. No branching paths, no boss cells or ascension or anything like that. You beat the game and you be in the game. Sure, those 14 hours were a blast, but again, 14 hours, especially for a pretty steep price tag considering Enter the Gungeon, Nuclear Throne, and Base Isaac are all under $12.99. If it's on sale, like how I got it, it's a hard recommend. But otherwise, just know this game doesn't really have much meat on its bones, but that meat might as well be unicorn for all I care. So you guys have heard of Vampire Survivors? Trick question, this is a video and I'm just talking to myself, so I'm gonna pretend you said an answer that follows my narrative. Vampire Survivors is a, you'll never guess, dating sim roguelike that entered early access on December 17th, 2021 and was officially released a little under a year later on October 20th, 2022. Since early access, it's accumulated a 98% positivity rating on Steam as well as a whopping 170,440 reviews at this time. This one's stick was that it was a horde survival kind of game. You're dropped into an area and just kill enemies, collect XP they give after they die, and then when you get a certain amount, you can choose an upgrade or a weapon. It has characters you can select from and upgrades you can buy with in-game currency for later runs. Throw in some good music and okay sprite work that looks like it was just ripped from a Castlevania game, and you've got yourself a hit, I guess. Next thing you know, we've got a million of these games popping up everywhere. Some were okay, some were awful. And then you have 20 Minutes Till Dawn, which is peak art. 20 Minutes Till Dawn was created by Flani, if that's not pronounced, I'm very sorry. A solo indie dev who also created some other game called Spirit Link Tactics. In 20 Minutes Till Dawn, you're thrust into a field, temple, or a field with pumpkins, and then you have a simple goal. Survive 20 minutes until dawn. You survive those 20 minutes, and you've won the game. But before we go into the bread and butter of this game, let's quickly discuss the other 2 game modes. Quick Play and Endless. Quick Play? Quick Play is a crock of shit. Its whole gimmick, it is quick. I know. Previously unknown knowledge. But that's it. I shit you not. XP is supposed to be getting faster, but I didn't even notice a difference. And even the wiki says it's bugged, so great. And you're restricted to one map, the default one, the forest. Endless is a significantly more enjoyable game mode. It's gone from surviving 20 minutes to survive. And despite the fact I don't think I need to tell you this, but I will anyway, it's endless. You hear that little Timmy in the back? Endless. This game mode will never end. To make this not a redundant point, enemies get HP buffs, speed buffs, and attack buffs every 10 minutes. To make it so you don't eat shit after 20 minutes, you can equip multiple of the same upgrade. 5 to be exact. Unfortunately, it's also restricted to forest, and enemies from the other 2 areas, temple and pumpkin patch, don't show up here at all. So it's not exactly perfect, but it's a good side mode. Alright, now that's out of the way, let's actually talk about this game properly. So you get dropped into an area of your choosing. All you gotta do is survive 20 minutes. Now, normally, that's pretty easy, but apparently, Cthulhu, or whatever other Lovecraftian creatures there are, want you deader than shit for reasons. I don't know, maybe you owe them $20 or something like that. So you gotta blast every enemy you can. Every enemy drops XP, and after collecting enough XP, you can choose from 5 to 4 upgrades chosen from a random list. Enemies get progressively more numerous, dangerous, and varied, starting enemies who just kind of run at you, and ending with hordes of exploding and ranged enemies. Survive 20 minutes, and you win the first time. Then you get your first darkness. When you get your first win, you get darkness 1. Win with darkness 1, you get darkness 2. Win with 2, you get 3, etc, etc. All the way to darkness 15, and not 20, because I don't know, maybe they didn't want to be that on the nose with it. Think of darkness as a sentient from Slay the Spire. Each level adds one extra hindrance, so at first it might be something negable, like a few extra enemies show up. But near the end, you get less upgrades, enemies deal double damage for the last 5 minutes, and enemies gain extra health. You get a currency, which probably has a name, I just couldn't bother to look at what it was called, when your run ends. The amount depending on enemies killed, time alive, and stuff like that. This can be used to buy runes, which act as permanent upgrades that can be toggled on and off. These start as simple stat increases, but evolve into stuff like being able to prevent death once, and giving you infinite ammo for 5 seconds every few dozen kills. There are a lot of runes. Experiment. And speaking of experiment, let's talk about the weapons, characters, upgrades, which undoubtedly carry this game. My favorite thing in the game is when it gives you all the tools to do some crazy shit and basically just says, go nuts. Like in Ultra Kill, how you can use your coin to reflect projectiles, but then you get this thought, what if I shot this thing with a railcan? The game didn't tell you to do that. It wasn't hinted at or anything like that. You did it out of your own curiosity, and now you got some extra stuff for it. This game is that feeling. You get all these characters, weapons, runes, and upgrades, and the game basically just says, well, it doesn't say anything because it's a game, but if it could, it would probably hand you all this stuff, right, with a nice bow around it, and say, go nuts, kiddo. So, let's go over all of it. Is what I would have said when I started this script with the basic structure, but now continuing with 17 pages in, and still have 2 other games, as well as a conclusion, let's give it all a brief overview instead of a giant review. Lightning round! So, the characters. Your starting character is Shauna, the character on the thumbnail, who can re-roll her upgrades to choose from another random 5 or 4. She can do this every level to get rid of upgrades she doesn't want, and have a better chance of getting upgrades that she does want to synergize with everything she has. She has a character upgrade. I'm not going to tell you how to get those. I'll let you figure them out yourself. That lets her multiply her next upgrade by 3. Keep a note that includes stat increases, summons, and abilities. Diamond has an astounding 3 more HP than other characters, and isn't exactly the most fun. However, some upgrades do get amplified the more HP you have, so it's gotta count for something, I guess. Scarlet shoots out a fireball every 3rd shot, and her character-specific upgrades give her fire some really good stats. Hina can dash in the direction she's moving, creating a clone that makes damaging pulses. The clone deals the same amount of damage as your bullet damage. A lot of upgrades increase bullet damage. Spark shots have a 50% chance to summon down lightning on an enemy, dealing extra damage and damaging enemies who might be close. Luckily for you, some upgrades increase the amount of projectiles you shoot, and if it has piercing, which can also be an upgrade you can equip, cash money. Lila spawns a ghost every time an enemy dies. There are a few skills that do stuff with summons, mostly just increase attack speed and damage, but attack speed is kind of pointless on them, really. But there is one upgrade that I thought I would single out here. I cannot remember the name of it, I did not write it down, but there's an upgrade that causes your summons to release this damaging pulse every 2 seconds, and when you're killing a lot of enemies and spawning a lot of ghosts, I think you get the idea. Abby can do a Crash Bandicoot spin to show off all her ammo very quickly, which, I don't know. I just had a Crash Bandicoot joke for her, really. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't write anything else. Yuki can create a butterfly with a freezing aura effect every 6 shot, and it also, applies your freezing effects. So if you have freezing upgrades, it will apply those as well. Luna creates a black hole every time she reloads. I don't think I need to tell you what the black hole does. And with upgrades, she can make black holes shoot out bullets, she can cause damage equal to bullet damage in the black hole, and she can even summon a second one. Hasta, I'm really hoping I pronounced that right, periodically summons tentacles. I really wish I had something better to say about her. I'm guessing it's a her. But no, she just summons tentacles. Don't make a tentacle hentai joke. Raven has a raven that applies curse, which again, just like Yuki, your curse is another upgrade that you can get itself, and it will apply that curse effect. And finally, there's Dasher. Dasher turns into a deer every 25 kills. This deer is not only invincible, but it hits hard, it's fast, and you can probably tell by the background gameplay, 25 kills is nothing in this game. It's like if the Binding of Isaac gave you Brimstone for 10 seconds every 5 kills. She's fun, and basically an unkillable demigod, but she's leagues above every other character. It's like comparing a bunch of goldfish to a Spetsnaz officer. She's fun, but she should probably get nerfed. You also get a large variety of weapons in this game. A revolver that acts as the straight man, it fires bullets. What more do you want? A shotgun that fires a cluster of projectiles at close range. A double shot SMG that shoots 2 bullets at once. A crossbow that works on a charge mechanic. A flamethrower that spews fire. A bat cannon that fires homing projectiles that are affected by summon upgrades, by the way. I'm not going to ask how that works. A grenade launcher that shoots a bullet that explodes on impact. A magic bow that fires projectiles that are recoil to you when you reload. You can hit enemies twice. You get tomes for killing bosses, which periodically spawn throughout the night, which increase your stats but also decrease your stats. like the Tome of Speed that increases speed by a staggering 50% but removes 1 maximum hit point, or the Tome of Rage that triples ammo capacity, as well as giving you a jagged rate of fire and spread but decreases bullet damage and knockback. There are more than just 2, don't worry, I'm just trying to condense the script as much as possible, plus I'd hate to spoil some of the dumb shit you can do with these. And finally, there are the upgrades. And you know what? Let's give every single upgrade tree a quick review. There's a skill tree that increases bullet speeds and therefore their range, as well as giving them penetration, and on the last upgrade, enemies below 20% health just get banner snapped or something because they just cease to exist now. There's a skill tree that increases bullet damage, and it's pretty useful, but one perk stands out. Splinter. Any kill will cause any enemy to explode into 3 bullets. I put 3 as in 3, not as in the number. So why am I pointing out this upgrade specifically? Well, firstly, it applies with your bullets. So for instance, a flame cannon, it won't be bullets, it will be fire. With the bat cannon, it will be homing projectiles, and with the grenade launcher, it will cause every enemy to explode into 3 micro explosions, giving you the Chicago experience. And also it applies your bullet effects, making it really useful to spread them, but I can't think of a joke for that. There's the dragon deck that spawns a decently powerful dragon companion that only activates after being in an egg for 3 minutes. Its upgrades increases damage and attack speed every 60 seconds, even while in the egg, so it's kind of a long-term investment. The Electromancer, didn't even know that's a word until now, causes every second bullet to cool down lightning on a random enemy. You get a companion that just randomly shocks enemies, and extra lightning damage. Really good for when you got a jacked rate of fire. Conveniently, the one under that is the Quick Shot tree that increases fire rate. It's fine, even the last upgrade, Besieged, kinda sucks. 33% chance to not consume ammo, sounds good, until you realize it only applies when standing still. So I can't have my cake or eat it too. You get a Ghost who shoots projectiles, which it's fine. But then you get an upgrade that makes him apply a bullet effect, and he instantly becomes the best companion in this game. You get extra health from the health boost tree. The Holy Shield tree gives you a shield that negates a hit every 2 to 1 minutes, and can be upgraded to give you some pretty nice stat increases whilst it's on, as well as constantly summoning down lightning whilst it's on. There's not even a joke or anything I have to say, it's just a nice reliable upgrade. The Cryomancer perk gives your bullets a chance to freeze enemies. This is pretty useful CC, and can be upgraded to damage them too. This counts as a bullet effect. The Magic Lens perk is pretty useful. It creates a lens summon that constantly circles around you, amplifying bullets that pass through it. Sucks how all upgrades are boring and just kind of shit as well. It's like getting a half-built Tesla, but then all you get for it is like some Brat stickers or something. The Magnet tree, besides sounding like some awesome weird comic fantasy thing, increases the pickup range of XP and gives you some brief but powerful upgrades after picking up XP. The Speed tree increases overall movement speed. The Multi-Shot tree is some of the stupidest shit I've seen in this game. You can fire a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 10, I think, extra projectiles with this tree maxed out. The Pyromancer perk tree gives your bullets a chance to call upon the great flames to burn all those who even dare oppose you and melt them to a fine ash. It's alright. The healing property is probably the best part it has. The Reload tree increases reload speed and is overall very useful. The Glare tree manifests your personality into a literal force. It's only useful for practical purposes and hurts everyone around it. It also applies bullet effects like fire and ice, but I couldn't think of how to add that to the joke, so take that too. The Magical Scythe creates a spinning scythe that damages enemies. Who would have thunk it? Upgrades make it apply extra effects on hit. It also counts as a summon. I don't know if I have to say that, but I did anyway. The Dark Arch tree has a chance for your bullets to apply Curse, which damages enemies after a brief second. Upgrades can make it so that people with Curse take extra damage. The Curse itself deals extra damage, and it can make it so that each Curse kill increases your damage slightly. The Holy Arch tree causes enemies near you to take damage when you reload. With upgrades, this damage can increase with max HP. That's like the one useful thing it has, I guess. The Arrow tree is shit. Moving on, I'm not even going to briefly mention it like the other perk trees I skipped. I'm not even going to waste any more characters on it. Fuck you, Arrow tree. The Dodge tree gives you a chance to dodge enemy attacks. This chance can stack with movement speed, which is cool. The Magical Spear tree gives you magical spears. It's alright, I guess. The Soul Heart tree is broken garbage that I don't even want to talk about. And finally, in terms of upgrades, you have the Trainer and Frenzy trees, which increase summon damage and attack speed respectively. It also has that summon damaging pulse thing I was talking about earlier. That's all the upgrades. Finally, there are synergies and the 2 other areas we haven't talked about. We're 22 pages in. So that was 20 minutes until dawn. Despite the fact it wasn't perfect, I still thought it was a lot of fun. It had a pleasing aesthetic, the sprite work was top notch, and the game allows for near endless synergy with its upgrades, characters, weapons, tomes, character upgrades, etc, etc. It's only weighed down by some slight balance problems, the quick play mode being dog shit, and the other 2 areas kind of falling apart at High Darkness with how much HP bosses and some enemies have in it. In my opinion, it's better than Vampire Survivors. So here we are, the final game. I'm not even going to say a joke or a quip or anything like that. Let's just get to talking about this game. Death Row the Canada was developed by Rocket Cat Games. Fuck's sake. and Mad Garden, also being published by Rocket Cat. It released on the 22nd of July 2016 and has a 93% positivity rating on Steam, but it's still only considered a very positive, probably some dumb Steam review fake, maybe it doesn't have enough reviews, I don't know. It's a part retro, part beat 'em up, part looting, part text-based roguelike about a small posse of people / zombies / dogs / beavers / media references trying to get to Canada in an otherwise destroyed and apocalyptic world. Your goal is simple: get to Canada, looting anything along the way, any way you can. Formalities out of the way, how does this game play? Please note that this is not a comprehensive guide. There is a lot of shit in this game, and I can't even begin to mention it all, unless I want to add another 10 pages to the script, which fucking nope. In Death Road to Canada, which henceforth shall simply be named Death Road, you start your journey in whatever the furthest state away from Canada is. I don't know what it is. You have several things to keep track of. Food and fuel are without a doubt the most important thing. Fuel keeps your car running, which makes going across a whole country noticeably easier, and food is needed to keep your survivors alive as well as maintain their morale. You also have morale and medical supplies. Morale doesn't do that much unless it goes to 0, in which all hell just breaks loose. Events can trigger like them leaving the group, the person with the lowest morale I mean. They could lower everyone else's morale, or trigger bad events and possibly get a member of the party killed, so don't let morale get too bad, I guess. Medical supplies are also pretty simple. If a survivor gets injured by a zombie by themselves, they just don't heal. Ever, unless you have meds, so make sure you have those, I guess. Finally, there's ammo, which is needed for guns that you loot while looting. And guns are very, very valuable weapons, because mostly every other weapon in this game is melee. There are other stats like loyalty, which can be the difference between Carl selling out your team to a bunch of bandits, or fighting to keep you guys alive with his life, wits, fitness, vitality, and a bunch of other stats, but these are all specific and personal. All these stats can increase depending on events, or decrease depending on events, so I'm not going to mention them all here, figure out yourself really. While driving, you have to loot up to get those supplies like I just mentioned. You can get weapons and other goodies from this too, like temporary robot or chicken companions, or a magazine to increase specific stats. There are a dozen places to loot up, probably more, all with different stuff and supplies from convenience stores to haunted houses. America truly does have it all. While driving, there are also random events. These can basically be anything you can think of. Randomly generate survivors, special characters chosen from a predetermined list, random food, random gas, a car, bandit, anything can happen in these events. The combat is decent. Smashing zombies is satisfying, but this definitely is not fucking Dying Light or some shit. Zombies can actively be avoided by walking around them or locking doors. Furniture can be thrown at them, which is definitely the MVP of this game, by the way. You can take control of one survivor who's the leader, and then you can command the rest of your squad to fight, run, and if you want them to shoot or smash, or either, it's all up to you. You can randomly besiege, which is when your group gets attacked by a mass horde of zombies that you can't avoid. They can even burrow in from the ground or smash in from the roof. So during sieges, the game gets intense, turning into these mad dashes to cover ground, kill zombies, and be in a safe location. If you loot properly, then these should be less deadly, but sieges are almost always a fight for your life, not some walk in the park. You also have to maintain resources well. Your car has durability, which unless you have jack mechanical skills, almost always guarantees you'll need to switch cars at least a few times in a run. Meaning sometimes it's worth it to risk going for a new car, which yes, that's like a looting location, even if the car you have isn't completely broken down yet. And you can trade at trader camps for gas, money, weapons, survivors, stat increases. But no, not for money, no, that would be too fucking easy. So food is what you trade for. Your life source acts as a currency. This game is very personalized, because no two runs are the same. Survivors have random traits, and events as well as loot locations are always random, excluding the first set of loot locations, which is always the first thing in every run. Besides that, no two runs will ever really feel the same. There's a character creator where you can create your own survivors with custom appearances, custom personalities that have an upside and a downside, and custom traits, which is usually some small bonus the character gets, like starting with guns, their gun skills, some more strength, a little bit more ammo, some medical supplies, starting with a nicer car, etc, etc. There are game modes like Deadly or Road to Canada, which just really adds even more zombies, a mode that takes 28 days instead of the usual 14, or the opposite where it's only 7 days instead. I know I'm not gushing over this game like the others, but that's because it's a game where you create a bunch of dumb little stupid stories. Like, let's take my first win for instance. I was playing as 2 custom survivors. Charlie, who hit really hard, like he would consistently one-shot every zombie, but he died in a single hit. And Gas Mask Man, who started with medical equipment and just didn't need to sleep, I guess. We found a random survivor who I don't remember, and a sumo wrestler, and just proceeded to clear house on zombies. It was dumb, it was funny, and it was a one-of-a-kind experience. I've had runs with anime girls that get progressively more and more anime before fucking exploding, walking dogs, and every single one of them was a blast, even when I lost most of them. Not to mention, this game has charm. The writing is so self-aware and stupid, it's honestly kind of a high art. It's a game you gotta play to understand it, because I don't think I can do this game justice with just my words. It's a heavy recommendation, and maybe my favorite, kind of tied with 20 Minutes Until Dawn. Depends on how I'm feeling, I guess. Either way, I think Death Row the Candidate is a game well worth your time. So, let's conclude this video, shall we? That's right, bitch, we're actually doing 6 games! Kinda. Project Malice is still in development as of this moment, but I thought I'd give it a quick shout out nonetheless, because from the demo I played, this game does have some serious potential. Project Malice is yet again another roguelike that takes place after some world-ending event. Fucking yeah, never seen one of those before. And controls very weirdly. You're on an 8-way axis and have to press a specialized button to turn. Kinda like tank controls, I guess. That's like the best comparison I have. You can still shoot enemies that aren't like adjacent to you, but it does take a little bit of time to get used to. You're dropped into one area with a few rooms that you can freely move across, by the way, fighting zombies, and more zombies. You collect items, you shoot things. It's some classic roguelike fun, with some fun twists. The controls, witty dialogue, and a good rogues gallery, get it, of characters. Try the demo and wishlist it. I'm not giving this a super in-depth review, especially when there's a free demo available. Just try it. You'll probably like it. Hello, alright, this is like a few hours, like, before the actual editing shit begins. Alright, so it turns out the game actually, like, released on early access today, like the 20th of January. Like, I don't know, yeah, this is obviously George from the future again. I was like looking it up, I was just capturing a bit more footage for it, because I realized like, I didn't have any fucking footage. So I looked at it, like the page, and yeah, it turns out like you can get the game like right now on early access, and it's like, I don't know. I'm not gonna like edit around now because I can't be able to change like the price of it, like what it was before, but like you can still download the demo, like that's still available, but like yeah, you can get this game like on early access now if you want. I guess that's gotta count for something. So yeah, just know that Project Malice is no longer a demo only, it is now on early access on Steam and itch.io apparently. And anyway, bye. Also this game has a sex DLC, just thought I'd let you know.